TMS healing works every time, which evokes two important questions. 1. Why don't people want to heal? 2. Why do people struggle to heal? The answer is always due to ego, whose intent is to keep us separate and alone, and to pervert our understanding of who we really are.
Hello, my name is Rayanne, and I can't tell you how long I've been procrastinating doing this video. It's now almost 4 years. And it's my true perfectionistic style that I wanted to create a brilliant video that would capture exactly what Steve has done for me and how my life has changed since I met with him. And I had so many videos and pictures and things to put together, and I wanted it to be a brilliant video, and I just never got to it. And then I had a look and thought he appealed to me and said, "And just get your message out there. You don't know how many people's lives you can change." And hence here I am today. But this is my story. So it was May, I'll never forget. It was the 12th of May, 2019. And, they talk about divine providence. My daughter had a best friend who she was visiting, and it was Mother's Day that day. It was Sunday. And she told me to come visit her. I did, and to fetch her. And I'll never forget this. I was talking to her mother, Natalie, who's also put a video on this. And Natalie was telling me how she's cured her headaches. And I said to her, "That's amazing. How did you do it?" She said, "No, it's this great pain deception. Steve changed her life." And I remember emphatically saying, this was on the 12th of May, "Nat, mine is structural. I've been told I've got pains in my knees and my body and everything because I had an operation that was botched in about 1998. And then I fell on my back after running a double marathon, 3 weeks after running the double marathon in 2002, and I was told basically that I will always have structural issues with my back and my knee, and that was what I believed." And when she said, we're just talking, and I said to her, the pain shift, she said, "I'm telling you, a typical candidate." And I said, "Never." She said, "Ray, just read this book." Needless to say, I started reading it, and my life changed fundamentally. I think everything just started making sense. The pain was real, but it was emotional pain. It was coming from my emotions. And I remember reading paragraphs of Steve's book and just sobbing myself. And the reality was that I had to understand that while the pain was emotional, there was a trigger. And basically that set in motion my need to really confront the demons of my life and make some life-changing decisions, which were really difficult. But I think they were bottling up, and that reservoir of pain within me never was self-directed in terms of my body. I had numerous problems. Firstly, I had an activated eating disorder. I was 36 kilograms. I never had that issue. I was very anemic. I had to go on supplements. I was losing my hair. I had gastric issues. Every night I remember getting up in the middle of the night and saying, "Is this pain going to last? What am I going to do? How am I going to get to bed?" I was obsessed with the pain. And then when I read it, I just started realizing that I was that candidate. I was that person who was always overly responsible, the do-gooder, my history of my childhood and all the traumas to which I was subjected to prompted me to make a number of decisions that weren't the right decision for me, and just set in motion just a life of crises, culminating in me literally having turned 50 in March that year, thinking, is this my life? Is this what I am? I've got 3 children. I had 3 children who were just beautiful, and I had everything I wished for. I had a very, very successful career in investment banking. I was a high achiever. Whatever I did, I just did brilliantly, but I couldn't conquer the pain. And I was I literally every week went to physios. I went to a physio on a Friday, doctor of, I forget the name, on a Tuesday, and a chiropractor on a Wednesday. So I literally was going to 3 practitioners every single week. I had MRIs at least every 6 months. And I was just living a hell. And I think what I realized was Steve just gave so much of his time, and the reality of his book was just a hard awakening, and it was a journey. I think once I realized the trigger was a very destructive relationship, it wasn't even like everyone said, my gosh, Rayanne, you're so courageous after 23 years to end a marriage. I said, there was no courage. It was once I knew that I could escape these pains by dealing with my emotions and addressing them and changing my circumstances. There was why wouldn't I? And I always say, thank goodness, because next year came COVID. I always say to God protected me by not giving me COVID in 2019, but in 2020, because I think had it happened in that year, I wouldn't be here. My whole body would have packed up. I was really my organs were slowing down slowly. My teeth, I was having root treatment. As I said, everything was just packing up, and I was obsessive. I didn't run 5 times a week, 10 Ks a week, 10 Ks a session. It's 50 kilometers a week. Forgive me for the Americans. I don't know how many miles that is. Divided by 1.6. I just didn't feel good enough. And I think I was so intent on healing myself and realizing that the power of healing comes within me, and it was the lack of faith in my own body, in my own self, had just diminished over the years. And when you read, I read every one of Dr. Sarno's books, and more importantly, I had a routine. I would read the books, I would listen to Steve. I had a few coaching sessions with Steve, and some of them were brutal, and I always said I didn't like what he said. I'll get back to that, but I think for me, it was every day I would look at these videos, and I would get inspired by people who had overcome their pains, and it was my inspiration. I remember getting up, hearing these, and saying, okay, I've got to run through the pain. It looks curate. And literally from July that year, I had no pain. And I embarked upon a divorce, and it was very, very, my levels of anxiety were skyrocketing. And then in December, I remember phoning Steve between Christmas and New Year, and I said, Steve, like the pain is coming back a bit, what's going on? And he said, Rayanne, you've just started. And I didn't understand it, because I thought I just got through the hurdle. I'm now got through this divorce. I am running pain-free, but then it started. And I think for me, the lesson was what you've heard from so many other people in these videos, is that it's the way you approach life. It's about living life with a different mindset, reframing it. And I had to work on a lot of things to really address the deep pain that was within myself, and the understanding that if you keep that pain within, how it destroys your body. And it's, as Sarno says, it's just an anatomic inflammation. It's a part of your brain that triggers it, but it's not actual pain. It is there, but it's not like it can't be cured. And that started. So now I'm 3.5 years down the line, and I remember saying to Steve, I can't run. He said, why would you want to run? It's so horrible. And now, Steve, I stopped running. I now, believe it or not, run on the spot, because I can listen to podcasts, I can learn, I can improve on myself, and it's been an amazing journey. And just know that the journey never ends. There are times where I do feel the pain in my back, or in my legs, or whatever the case is, and I have to just do some thinking therapy and understanding that it'll heal. It'll be fine, and don't panic. And there's a lot of trauma, and the trauma has a memory, and it takes time. And I remember Steve saying it will take time, but I just, a lot of people have spoken so highly about Steve, how brilliant he was and how helpful he was. And what struck me in our coaching sessions was he always said, you are my focus. His presence, he's about in the moment. There was nothing that could come between me and him. And that's how he conducted his consultations. And that's really how I am trying to live in the moment. There's so many times you can fear and what if this and what if that. And I think with the phones, I always say to my kids, it takes you out the presence of the moment. But it's a long spiritual journey. And I'm not going to get into a lot of detail as to that journey with me, other than to say that book, honestly, The Great Pain Deception, was one of the most brilliant books I've ever read. Steve has a captivating way of writing, and it literally changed my life. And I'm eternally grateful. And I look forward to Steve's next book. I remember he said that had Sarno lived longer, he would have spoken a lot more about the spiritual journey. Steve put me in touch with, Eckhart Tolle and Anita Mojani and a whole lot of other prolific writers, which initiated my journey, which has taken a lot of detours, but I can honestly say do I live with that pain, that fear of my body? Not at all. Do I work through things? Yes. Is life, Steve talks about the way to get out of darkness is to shine a light. And I just hope that I can be a light to a lot of you people who are out there struggling, and a glimmer, a flame of hope, as so many people were to me when I was trying to heal. And that would be my goal, is just to really inspire other people to say, if I could heal, and thank goodness I'm healthy now, I put on weight, my hair is growing, my teeth are strong, and I just feel much happier. So I hope that, as I said, I hope this does serve a purpose, and that I can be that ray of light. My name is Rayanne, and I always say, please God, I'm a ray of light to those people around. Once again, thanks very much, Steve.